What's going on, y'all? It's the big homie, the armchair operator, and welcome to part 3 of my 4-part FN review mini-series. Now, today's video, we are going to do what I've been promising y'all. That's right. We are going to do the comparison between the FNX45 Tactical and the FN545. Now, these two guns, they are very similar to one another in many respects. So I figured this would be a good comparison video just to show y'all the similarities and differences between the two. That way, if you're looking to purchase either one of these two particular guns, you kind of got an idea of what you might expect. Now, if you're looking for a full review of either one of those guns, I urge you to check out my previous videos dedicated to specifically just reviewing those guns. I will put a link to both videos down in the details section of this review video. Now, also, I just want to go ahead and say that this is the first comparison video for the channel. Now, the point of my comparison videos, or which I'm going to dub basically the Versus series, is to, like I said, put near peer guns up against one another. So that way I could kind of give you guys like an idea of how they compare with one another in terms of function, in terms of accessories, portability, concealability, shootability, reliability, the cost of entry, aftermarket support, all those things, you know. So that way, when you're out there, you're shopping, you're looking to pick up your next concealed carry piece, or you're looking to pick up your next home defense piece, or your next duty sidearm, you know, whatever it is that you're trying to do, and you're thinking about a couple of options that you wanna look at. That's the point of these videos, just to kind of give you an idea of what you're going to what you may come across when you're out there shopping for your next firearm, right? And just to kind of give you my take on the two. Now, all that being said, there's going to be a lot of objectivity, and there's also going to be a lot of subjectivity involved in this video. Now, what do I mean by that? So there are certain things that we can compare with one another, you know, magazine capacity, you know, the type of sights, how many accessories it comes with, stuff like that. All those things are pretty much objective, like it is what it is. Now, there are a lot of things that are going to be subjective, such as my opinion on the finish of the gun, or my opinion about how it handles on the range, you know, even my performance with said firearm on the range. Things like that is a little bit subjective. But I just want y'all to keep in mind, this is just a guide. You know, this is not a Bible or anything like that. This is just kind of a guide just to give you an idea of some of the things that you want to consider when you're out there trying to purchase, you know, your next gun for whatever reason that you want to purchase it for. So just, you know, just keep that in mind. You know, like I said, this is just my perspective. Your mileage and your experiences may vary. We're all built different. We all respond things differently. All right. So with all that being said, now that that's out of the way, let's take a look at the contenders. Okay, y'all, here we are. We have the contenders down here on the table. So like they would say in the boxing world, let's get ready to rumble. Anywho, on the left here in the black, we have the FNX45 Tactical. Now, let's just go down through the specs really quick. Let me open this guy up too so y'all can see it. I mean, I know y'all have seen it already, but hey, this is a gun review video, so therefore, let's take a look at this guy right here. Just turn that around. This is the FNX45 Tactical, like I already said. First thing we're going to do is we're going to do a clear check. As you can see, gun is unloaded, magazine is empty. Okay, so what do we have here? Really quick, just to bring y'all up to speed. We have a 5.3 inch threaded cold hammer forged barrel with a 1/2 by 20 inch thread pattern. The overall weight of the gun is 33.3 ounces. The action type is double action / single action, as you can tell by both the style of the trigger, the external hammer, and the safety here. Speaking of which, we have an external frame mounted safety / decocker. We have your M1913 rail right here on the dust cover. Fully ambidextrous controls, meaning got the controls on both sides of the gun for your lefties out there, right? We also have an external extractor, which is here, which also acts as a loaded chamber indicator. We have suppressor height 3-dot night sights, right? And as you can see, it comes optics ready. Now, with this particular gun, we get 4 interchangeable back straps. You got one here, and we have 1, 2, 3 additional back straps for a total of 4, right? And the gun standard comes with 2 15-round magazines, as you see right here. These are aluminum magazines, I believe. The body itself, polymer base plates, of course, and it comes with this nice nylon carrying case. And overall, it has an MSRP of $1,379 US. Okay, so that is the FNX45 Tactical. Now, let's turn our attention to this guy right here. We're going to talk about the FN545 Tactical. So let's get this one opened up. So that way I can show y'all what it looks like, even though I'm sure you're already well aware of that. And just to show you again, this particular gun is clear. Drop the magazine. Magazine is empty. Okay. So, with the FN545 Tactical, we have a 4.7-inch cold hammer forged threaded barrel with also a a half inch by 28, a half by 28 inch thread pattern, threaded barrel, of course, right? Gun has an overall weight of 31 ounces, so it's slightly lighter than the FNX. Okay, now the trigger action on this particular gun is described by FN as being a double action striker fired trigger. This particular gun does not have an external safety. It does have, you know, a similar M1913 rail dust cover, just like the FNX. And let's see what else we have here. We have fully ambidextrous controls, of course. We also have, let me back up, fully ambidextrous controls, magazine release, fully ambi magazine release, slide catch / slide release. It's also ambidextrous, right? Now we also have an external extractor, which is here, which also acts as a loaded chamber indicator, which is the same as the FNX. I should say it's not the same, but similar to the FNX45 Tactical. We also have suppressor height 3-dot night sights, again, similar to that of its predecessor, the FNX45. It also is optics ready. Now, the optics mounting system that FN uses for this particular gun is referred to as their MRD, low profile optics mounting system. So it's a little bit different than the optics mounting system of the FNX45 Tactical. This gun also comes with the optics mounting hardware, which, speaking of which, as does the FNX45 Tactical. My apologies for not showing you that. But this is the optics mounting hardware that comes with the 545. Now, this particular gun has 2 interchangeable back straps. Let me grab that one for you really quickly so that way you can see it. Okay, it has this particular back strap as extra, and then you have one on the gun for a total of 2. This gun comes with 2 magazines. It comes with one 15-round magazine, and it comes with an extended 18-round magazine. The nylon carrying case, as you see here, and this particular gun has an MSRP of $1,139. Okay, now we have gone through both contenders. On the left, we got the FNX45 Tactical. On the right, we got the FN545 Tactical. Now, let's get into the nitty-gritty, y'all. Let's get down to how they stack up to one another. Okay, now that we've laid out the features, let's go through both of these guys, shall we? So this is how this is going to work. For each category, each category, the contenders can earn a total of 1 point per category. Now, the categories we're going to be discussing here are features, accessories, ammo capacity, ergonomics, portability slash concealability, shootability slash reliability, disassembly, aftermarket support, MSRP, and the value for your dollar. So again, like I said, for each category, you could earn a maximum of 1 point. For some categories, it is possible to get a half a point. You know, for example, the category of portability slash concealability, since that's basically a two-parter, you can get a half a point for each for a total of 1 point. Same thing for shootability and reliability. All right. So now that I've laid out the ground rules as to how we're going to do this, let's dive in. So first thing, we have the FNX, right? Now, we want to talk about features. So basically, like I said, we went through the features before. This particular gun has a 5.3-inch threaded barrel. It's cold hammer forged. It has suppressor height night sights, right? It's optics ready. It has the external safety. It's also a fully ambi gun, okay? You know, it has a nice texturing on the grip, so it has that going for itself. And, you know, as far as other feature set is double action slash single action, and, you know, you have an external hammer. Now, diving into that a little bit more with the external hammer, of course, you can operate this gun in single action mode. So you don't have to have the double action trigger pull if you don't want to. Now, another good thing about this gun that I might not have talked about much before is that you can carry this gun like a 1911. You can basically carry it cocked and locked, as you see here. The gun is on safe, but the hammer is in the cocked position. So therefore, if I were to actuate the trigger, which is in the safe direction, by the way, nothing happens. You can do that all day long and nothing happens. So that's actually really good, especially for a lot of guys who might be, you know, still in the 1911 world, who would prefer to have something where they, you know, they could carry it in single action mode, but still put the weapon on safe. And then when you draw, you can just take the gun off safe and, you know, be prepared to utilize the gun, right? Now, the other thing you have is if you don't want it cocked and locked, if you just want to carry it like a straight double action gun, you can just decock it, right? Because you have the decocker and it'll safely drop the hammer. And now you're down to a double action trigger pull, which is actually really good. Some of my first semi-auto pistols were double action, single action. Matter of fact, I had my very first handgun was a Smith & Wesson model 645 chambered in 45 ACP. So it's the same deal. That was a double action, single action gun. So, you know, you have the added safety for that, and then you have that safety there too. So, I mean, overall, it has a really good feature set. You know, it has a really good feature set, and it gives you options. That's the important thing. Now, if we turn our attention to the FN545, as you can see, you don't have an external safety with the 545. You do kind of have like this trigger shoe right here. It's like a hinge trigger that works somewhat similarly to that of the older Smith & Wesson triggers, but it's, you know, it doesn't have an external safety. So definitely, of course, your finger is the #1 safety. We all know that. But the point is, it doesn't have an external safety. So you really have to be more wary of your battery of arms, and also more cautious of, one, holstering the gun and making sure nothing's in the trigger guard, and also, two, keep your finger out of the trigger guard unnecessarily. But you just don't have that extra safety feature that you have with the FNX45 Tactical. Also, as you can see, you don't have an external hammer on this guy, so you can't really just put it in single action mode and fire the gun that way. So that's just something to keep in mind there. We have similar type of sighting setup, you know, 3-dot suppressor height sights, right? But you also, one thing that this gun has that I really, really like is these ears right here. And these are designed basically to protect the rear sight in case the gun is dropped or jarred or hit in this location. And you also have these little notches right here. So, I mean, if you wanted to, you could run this off a table, off your belt loop, or a hard surface. If you can't rack the slide with your hand, I mean, you can do that all day long. So I think that's really cool as far as that. But I mean, overall, in terms of features, I would have to go with the FNX45 Tactical on this one, mainly beyond the fact that you just have more options, like as far as like, you know, the external safety. You can carry it in single action mode, you can carry it in double action mode. You know, it just gives you a little bit more, if I'm honest, versus the FN545. So when it comes to specifically features, I'm going to lean more towards the FNX. I mean, granted, yes, the 545 does have, you know, these protectors for the rear safety. I mean, not the rear safety, I'm sorry, the rear sight. But honestly, for me, I would end up using, you know, the external safety or the single action / double action feature far more than I would utilize that. Plus, this is, in my opinion, more functional than this is. So in that category, we're going to give the point over to the FNX45 Tactical. Next, we're going to talk about the accessories. So this is basically everything that comes with the FNX45 Tactical. Let me just go through this really quickly. So this particular gun comes with 4 back straps in total, right? You got the one on the gun, and then you have these 3 over here. Now, one thing I will say that I also really like about the FNX45 is that, like, if you notice here, you have 2 different texture patterns. So you have a slightly less aggressive texture pattern, and then you have a more aggressive texture pattern here. You know, and you know, of course, you have the slimmer back strap, like if you just want a more of a 1911 style, or if you want the particular hump. I have the one with the hump, but the less aggressive texture pattern installed on this particular gun here. I like that particular one more so than the super aggressive one. But that's just kind of a preference. You may choose, you know, if you have the gun, or should you decide to get the gun, you may choose to go with a different backstrap. But I mean, the point is, you get more options as far as, you know, you get options as far as the backstraps goes, which is why I like that. And we have 2 15-round magazines, right? The standard 15-round magazines that the FNX45 is known for. And it comes with the optics mounting system. Comes with the optics mounting plates, your different screws. We got 2 Allen keys here. You know, everything that you need to mount your optic onto the plate and mount it on the gun. I'm going to say it again. Thank you, FN, for giving us the optics mounting plates. I'm going to keep saying it for every gun that gives us the optics mounting plates. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Anyway, we have that here. And it also comes with your obligatory, you know, cable lock, right? And then it comes with this nice carrying case. Now, I'm more partial to like a hard case whenever I buy a gun. I like the hard cases. To me, they just kind of hold up better. They look better in a lot of cases. You know, I just like them, right? But I gotta say, with the FNX45 Tactical, this is actually a nice case. I mean, because you got like your different pockets here, right? You know, you can put your, you can put your magazines in the pockets. You know, you can slip those guys in there, and then you can also slip, you got a little pocket here for the muzzle, and you can lock it in, and you have like a little pouch here for your other accessories. So it's actually really nice. You know, this is actually pretty good. I really like the case that the FNX45 Tactical comes in. This is a really good case. So now that we talked about that, let's talk about the 545. So basically with the 545 Tactical, it comes with everything you see here. You have your 2 magazines here, right? You know, your 15 rounder, your 18 rounder. Now this gun only comes with the 2 back straps. So the downside there is that you don't really get a lot of options, like as far as changing the texture pattern on the back strap like you do with the FNX45 Tactical. And don't get me wrong, these are good and they're not too aggressive, which is why I like them. But it would be cool to have, like, say, if you wanted a more aggressive texture or a less aggressive texture on the back strap, you would have that option to have that. Unfortunately, you only get the one, so that's basically that. But don't get me wrong, it's good enough, but I'm just pointing it out there. The other thing we have the hardware for the optics mounting system here. So because it uses a bit different optics mounting system versus that on the FNX45 Tactical, of course you see more, you have more stuff here. You have your plates, Allen key, you have the screws, you have an O-ring. You just have more stuff when it comes to mounting the optic. And it's good. Like I said, I'm always appreciative of the fact that they give you the optics mounting system with the gun. And of course you have the cable lock, right? Your obligatory cable lock safety and all that. And you have the carrying case. Now, the carrying case for the 545, it's okay. It's a nice case. It's not bulky. It gets the job done. It gets the job done. But that being said, the FNX45 Tactical case is just better in my opinion. You just have more going on here. Now, don't get me wrong, with the case with the 545, right? You have little loops and things like that for your magazines and so on and so forth. So you can kind of secure them, and then you have more pockets here and everything like that. So like I said, it definitely gets the job done, but this is just, the FNX45 Tactical just has a nicer case in my opinion. So with the fact that the case is nicer and you have more options as far as, configuring the back strap of the gun, I'm going to give the point in the accessories category to the FNX45 Tactical. All right, now let's talk about ammo capacity. So really quick, let me put this out there. I didn't include the actual specs of the magazines in the previous section under accessories. Reason being, I wanted ammo capacity to be its own separate thing. So I just wanted to put that out there as a disclaimer. So this one is actually really simple. It basically comes down to how many rounds can the gun hold when you first get it from the factory, right? So we have two 15 rounders here, and we have a 15 and an 18 rounder. So obviously here, the point is going to go to the FNX because the FNX can hold 3 more rounds versus the the 545, I'm sorry. The point's going to go to the 545 because it can hold more rounds, more bullets, whatever, than the FNX45 Tactical. So moving on from there, we come to the category of ergonomics. All right, so ergonomics is pretty straightforward, right? When we're talking about ergonomics, we're basically talking about how you interface with the gun, specifically the grip, the trigger, or more accurately, your length of pull with the trigger. We can talk about the trigger guard itself, and so on and so forth. So we look at the texture here with the FNX45 Tactical. It has really good grip texture right here, right? And here, this is actually the takedown lever, but it also has a little bit of texturing here, so that way as you're gripping the gun, your thumb can naturally ride right here to help manage the recoil. So that's actually really good. The gun is kind of long, and as a result, the trigger guard, it's elongated on purpose, right? If you're using gloved hands and so on and so forth. But it's a bit on the long side. So when you're running your light, and most of the time I'm running this with a Surefire X300, it's, even with my larger hands, it could be a little bit difficult to manipulate the buttons, of the light itself while I'm maintaining a shooting grip. So there's that, right? The other thing is this particular area is clear. You know, a lot of manufacturers don't like the texture of this particular area, but I mean, it's not mandatory if I'm honest, but it would be nice if it had a little bit of texture here. So, you know, there's that. But the one thing that I have to knock the FNX45 Tactical for is the location of this safety here. Now, if you recall, one of the reasons why I gave the point in terms of actual features to the FNX45 Tactical was the external safety. That being said, I have to knock it a bit for ergonomics, because when you're gripping the gun, your thumb, if you're using a two-handed grip, I'm trying to show y'all while still being on the camera here a little bit. When you're naturally gripping the gun, your thumb tends to ride the gun in this location, right? So if you put your thumb under the safety, you could accidentally put the gun on safe, and now you have a dead trigger. And it's very easy, you know, it's happened to me plenty of times under recoil. So to get around that, basically what I have to do is I have to change my grip so that the thumb is kind of sitting over and on top of it a little bit, but not actually pressing down on it, not as to activate the decocker. So it's a little, it takes a little getting used to. And also, as you can see here, like how my hand kind of sits up a little bit high on the beaver tail. Now, I've never gotten bit by the slide of this gun, but I mean, I just want to point out that I have to change my shooting grip in order to really grip the gun in, you know, a comfortable manner. So as far as ergonomics, that is the FNX45 Tactical. Now for the FN545, couple things to note. First of all, the 545 has texture right here in this particular part of the grip, which is actually a great thing, because when you're holding the gun and you're wrapping around with that support hand grip, like so, you see the meat of your thumb naturally rests right there. So it really helps out a lot, you know, it really helps, that little bit of extra texture. Now, granted, the takedown lever of the 545 is smaller than that of the FNX, but it also has a little texture here too. So just to give your support hand thumb a little bit of grip here as you're, you know, managing the recoil for this particular gun. And also, in this instance, I really like the fact that the 545 does not have an external safety. I can grip the gun just like normal, and I typically use like a thumbs high grip, I guess is what you will call it, right, in the air for these particular type of guns. And I can just grip it naturally, and I don't have anything getting in the way. I don't have to worry about accidentally putting the gun on safe or any of that. So another thing I also want to point out is the trigger guard. So the trigger guard is a slightly different shape, not by a whole lot, but because the gun is naturally shorter, the trigger guard is also shorter than that of the FNX. I don't know if you can see it on the camera here. Try to match it up as best I can for y'all. Yeah, I don't know if you can see that. Oh, I didn't notice that this. So you actually got a little bit of texture right there on the front of the trigger guard there for the FNX. Wow, I missed that. I didn't see that. This is actually smooth. There's no texture there. But basically, my whole point is the trigger guard is shorter. Therefore, when I'm running this with a weapon light, it's easier for me to actuate the light because of the trigger guard is naturally shorter than that of the FNX. But it still has enough space in it so that if you're wearing gloves, you can activate the trigger while you're wearing gloves. So that's important. So with all those things being said, as far as ergonomics, I have to give the point here to the FN545 Tactical, just because it has the extra texturing here on the grip where it really matters the most, especially when you're, you know, grabbing the gun with your support hand. And it doesn't have an external safety getting away of gripping the gun with your dominant shooting hand. So, and also the slightly shorter trigger guard here. So it makes it easier to activate a weapon light. So with those things being said, the point in this category goes to the FN545 Tactical. Okay, so let's talk about portability slash concealability. So portability slash concealability is simply this: carrying the gun around all day long, whether you're talking about duty use or concealed carry use, how easy slash how comfortable it is to carry the gun. So let's start here with the FNX45 Tactical. So basically, this is a big gun, right? It's a big gun. It weighs about 33.3 ounces. I'm going to assume that that's unloaded. So it's not the heaviest, but it's definitely noticeable. I don't know if anybody's going to conceal carry an FNX45 Tactical. I'm sure it's possible. I have carried larger 45s in my day. Granted, it's doable, but it's not something that I would personally want to do all day long, okay? Now, if you're talking about duty use or something like that, that's a little bit different. You know, for a duty gun, I would carry this all day long with a duty gun. It's not too heavy. You know, with the right holster, you'll be just fine. But just keep in mind that this has a pretty big, it's pretty big. 5.3-inch barrel, that's pretty big. So, you know, concealed carry, I mean, if you're going to talk about concealability between this and the 545, obviously the point will go to the 545 just based on the fact that the 545 is a smaller gun. Period. It's a smaller gun. The grip length is roughly similar. They have different cuts, but they're roughly similar. The grip on this one is slightly narrower than that of the FNX45 Tactical. I don't know if you can see that, but the grip profile for this is slightly narrower than this. So it's a little slimmer, but I mean, like I said, the point of the matter is the 545 Tactical is just a smaller, lighter gun than the FNX45 Tactical. So if you're talking about portability, the FN545 Tactical is about 31 ounces. So it's about 2 ounces lighter, a little bit more than 2 ounces lighter than the FNX45 Tactical, you know, unloaded. But I mean, basically, I have to give the point to the 545 here. We're talking about portability just because it's lighter and slightly smaller. You know, it basically just kind of is what it is. So essentially, it's going to be a tie as far as portability. Yeah, I take that back. I'm sorry. I'm not going to give it a half a point for portability. It's basically a wash for portability. I'm going to call it a wash for portability because weight-wise, they're pretty much, you know, they're pretty much similar. How it's going to feel on your hip is going to be pretty much similar. Also, too, you also got to keep in mind that these have 18-round magazines. So I didn't get a chance to weigh these guys loaded, but I would imagine that if you're carrying this with a fully charged 18-round magazine, and this with a 15-round charged magazine, the weights will probably be very similar, if not the same. So I'm just going to call the portability a wash on that. So it's a tie. As far as concealability goes, I mean, apples to apples, the 545 is a smaller gun, bottom line. So in this category, the 545 is going to get a half a point for the concealability aspect, and they're going to tie for the portability aspect. Okay, next we're going to talk about shootability and reliability. So we're just going to get reliability right out of the way really quick. So I haven't had any malfunctions or issues with either gun since I've had them. Granted, I've had the FNX45 Tactical the longest, but and I also have more rounds through it naturally, but even so, I haven't had any reliability problems out of either gun whatsoever. So with that out of the way, let's just focus on shootability. So the thing about this particular portion is one of those subjective things, like I said before, right? So one thing I will say, for example, if we're looking at the FNX45 Tactical, right? So it has the double action, single action operation. So when I took these guns to the range for the shootability portion of the review, I made it a point to break the first shot using the double action trigger pull. And if I'm honest, I'm a little rusty with shooting in double action. So I know I need to train up on that. But at the same time, I think that's more of an honest point of comparison, because if you're used to shooting striker fire guns or just shooting single action all the time, and you're not used to double action, that first shot is going to tell on you basically. And you know, it's one of the things that I'm going to try to put the target on the screen here so that way you can see it. But as you can see, I had a couple of flyers there when I was shooting in double action. But all in all, I counted 33 hits for the FNX45 Tactical. The target was set at 5 yards when I did the test. So you have 33 hits for the FNX45 Tactical. Now, as far as the FN545 Tactical goes, I will say that the superior ergonomics of the 545 really helps in the shootability aspect of it too. It really helps out a lot. And also the trigger. Now, I haven't really covered the trigger in either one of the two as of yet, but the thing about the trigger on the FN545 is that it's basically a consistent trigger pull throughout. It is actually a really good trigger. I think it's listed on the website as having like a 5.5 pound trigger, if I remember correctly. And it does feel like a 5 pound trigger. It's really good though. Also, like I showed you before, the 545 has a slightly slimmer grip than that of the FNX45 Tactical. So when you're holding the gun, it really helps to, you can really get that good that crush grip is what some instructors call it, right? So basically when you're gripping the gun, you're gripping it more so like that in your hand. I don't know if you could see it. You could kind of gripping it like this in your hand. And that you see that little tension right back there in your wrist. That's actually a really good shooting grip. And as you want to push down here on the bottom of the grip, so that way it keeps your muzzle from dipping, so it keeps your shots from going low basically. So, but the point is, I can really get a good shooting grip with the gun, that with also a really good double action striker fire trigger. Let's just say I handled the 545 Tactical better than I did the FNX, which was surprising. Before this review, I thought that it was going to be a slaughterhouse for the FNX45 Tactical, just based on the fact that it has a double action and single action style trigger. But anyway, with the 545 Tactical, and again, I'm going to try to put that image on the screen just to show you guys the result. I basically had 44 hits in the C zone or better at 5 yards. So, you know, apples to apples comparison, I had more hits on target with the FN545 Tactical versus the FNX. So I have to give the shootability portion of the test to the 545. So the 545 gets a half a point for this particular part of the comparison. Okay, now in terms of disassembly, these guns actually disassemble basically in an identical manner. So I'm not gonna do the full disassembly because I don't want to get a strike from YouTube. But essentially all you're doing is you lock the slide back like so, rotate down, let the slide go home, and the slide comes right off, right? And then you just remove the thread protector for the barrel, and you can remove the barrel and the recoil spring from that point. And this gun disassembles in the exact same manner. So basically the disassembly is going to result in a tie, because like I said, the assembly and disassembly as far as field stripping and cleaning goes is exactly the same. All right, let's talk about aftermarket support. So for this particular part of the video, I basically just focused on looking for holsters for these two. Now, when you're talking about aftermarket support, it's obviously more than just holsters. You know, you got different aftermarket triggers, sights, and so on and so forth. But like I said, to keep things simple, I mainly just looked at the holster aspect of it, you know, as far as like if the person wanted to carry the gun for duty use, competition, home defense, concealed carry, whatever. So anyway, I did a search for FN545 tactical holsters, and the listings that I got were more so for the FNX45 tactical, which doesn't really surprise me much, mainly because the FNX45 tactical came out in October of 2012, and the FN545 basically dropped in January of 2023. So obviously the FNX has been out a lot longer. I also am sure that the aftermarket support for the FN545 will grow over time. Like I said, it's a fairly new gun versus the FNX. So we'll start to, I'm sure we'll start to see more holsters and, you know, more options like updated trigger, upgraded performance triggers, and so on and so forth. I don't know if the performance trigger for the 509 will work in the 545. I have to check into that. I don't think so, but I'm not 100% sure. But anywho, like I said, just as far as just focusing on the holster aspect alone, there are more options out there for the FNX45 Tactical versus the FN545 Tactical. So just based on that alone, I'm going to give the point of aftermarket support to the FNX45 Tactical. Next, we're going to talk about MSRP. So the MSRP for the FNX45 Tactical is $1,379, while the MSRP for the FN545 Tactical is $1,130. So just based on that alone, the FN545 Tactical comes in cheaper than the FNX45. So I'm going to give the point of MSRP to the FN545 in that aspect. But also, as a disclaimer, a lot of times you will find these particular guns at gun stores for slightly less than MSRP. So that cost will typically vary depending on, you know, the prices in your local area, right? Now, also, when I'm referring to MSRP, I'm referring to the cost of the gun new. I'm not talking about the cost of the used prices. I'm talking brand spanking new. So therefore, again, the point for MSRP goes to the FN545. All right, that brings us to the last point of comparison, the value for your dollar. So now, again, granted, the FNX45 Tactical does have a higher MSRP than that of the 545, but I also feel like you're getting more for your money with the FNX45 Tactical. You know, one, it's a bigger gun, but also you're getting more accessories. You know, you're getting more back straps. You have a nicer carrying case. You know, it does present better, in my opinion, than the 545, just in terms of the things that you're getting with the gun. Now, that being said, the 545 does have a slightly lower MSRP, but at the same token, you know, I feel like it kind of makes up for it. In the sense, you know, it's a slightly cheaper gun. You're not getting as much as the 45 Tactical, but as far as the value for your money, it's still basically the same. You know, you're still getting a reliable gun. You're basically getting, you know, 2 magazines, optics mounting plates, back straps, and all that good stuff that you would get with the FNX. You know, you're just not getting as a fancy a case or as many back straps in that case, in that aspect too. So, I mean, honestly, I'm going to call this a tie between the two as far as value for your dollar. But also keep in mind that you are definitely going to get your money's worth with either gun. You know, you're getting your money's worth, in my opinion. So you don't have to worry about that part of it. So, but again, like I said, we're going to call this particular part of the comparison a tie. And now that brings us to the grand total. So if you've been keeping score, the FNX45 Tactical gets the point in terms of features, accessories, and aftermarket support. And the FN545 gets the points as far as ammo capacity, ergonomics. It gets a half a point for the portability I would say the concealability aspect, I'm sorry, just because it's a slightly smaller gun. It gets a half a point for shootability because I was actually a better shot with the gun. And it also gets the point for MSRP because it's slightly cheaper than that of the FNX45 Tactical, bringing us to a grand total of 3 for the FNX45 Tactical and 4 for the FN545. Okay, y'all, now we have reached the conclusion of the video. So I gotta say, I did not expect things to go the way that they did. You know, when I first got the idea to compare the FNX45 Tactical to the FN545, I initially thought that the FNX would win just based on the fact of the trigger style, the double action, single action trigger style, and the fact that it was a slightly bigger gun. You know, I mean, I didn't really know what to expect with the 545. Before I shot it, I really thought that the FNX was going to win in terms of just based on the trigger alone. But handling the 545, I gotta say, it's a better shoot in my opinion. To me, I handle it a lot better, and it's a really good gun. It's a really good gun. But like I said, the comparison, I think the comparison was pretty much fair. You know, both guns kind of shine in different ways, right? But ultimately, for me, the FN545 came out on top. And to be quite honest, I have no issues with that at all. But what did you guys think about the video? I mean, what did you guys think? Would you have picked the 545 over the FNX? You know, sound off in the comments. Let me know your thoughts on that. You know, if you would have rated them differently, or if you've handled both of them, which one did you handle better? You know, how did the ergonomics speak, you know, as far as to you, to your sensibilities? You know, I would like to hear that, you know, just to kind of get you guys experiences with either one or both of those guns. So, but anyway, I think I've kept y'all for long enough. This is the first of many comparison videos that I plan on doing for y'all. So just kind of stay tuned for that. But again, if you've liked the video, please drop me a like. Please subscribe, drop a comment down in the comment section. Like I said, let's get this discussion popping, y'all. I really do appreciate y'all for taking the time to view these videos and to subscribe to the channel. I really do appreciate it. All my commenters, I appreciate y'all too. So, but again, thanks a lot. Thank you so much for watching. This is the Armchair Operator signing off.